Hi guys, David here, and today we are going to be diving into the periodic table app, which has been produced by the Royal Society of Chemistry. This is one of my favorite periodic table apps. As you can, you'll be able to see why here in a few minutes, but today we are going to be going through and looking at how to use it. It's completely free on the App Store and on Google Play, so if you want to download the app right now and follow along, feel free. So without further ado, let's jump in. And as it opens up, the first thing that's going to hit you guys is all the colors. This is a very colorful app, which I love. Makes it very fun to look at and fun to explore everything. You can click on the different elements around the periodic table, and they have pictures for all of them. So I guess I'll point out, just to start, up here in the top middle, there, when you click an element, there's a little blurb that comes up with the name of the element, some important facts about it, and also some pictures. So here we have lithium. If you want to click on the picture of the metal, give it network access, and as it loads, you'll be able to see a picture of pure metallic lithium. And it's a very high quality picture. As you can see, I'm zooming in here very high, so you can zoom in very far. If you X out, you can also, for each element, see an example of how it's used. So for lithium, you have a nice picture of lithium ion batteries here. Once again, high quality if you want to zoom in and out on there. And it has that for all the elements. So copper, it's got copper wire. Chlorine over here has a pool to show the chlorine that's used to kill bacteria. And it's just a really cool way to showcase all the different elements and a very colorful visual way to do it. So let's go back over to lithium, and now we're going to look a little bit more about what this blurb can do. Let's look at lithium right now. As you can see, in basically the very middle of the top of the page, there's a play button. If you hit that, you can be brought to a YouTube video made by Brady Heron with people at the University of Nottingham. These are very fun videos. He's a very knowledgeable person, and he just has a lot of different interesting ways he showcases each element. There are also podcasts for each element. As you can see underneath the play button, there's a podcast button. Let me pause that. These podcasts are great because you can listen to it, or you can also scroll down and read the transcription of the podcast. And the cool thing is they have a video and a podcast for literally every element on this periodic table, even the very, very new elements like Oganesson 118. They do have videos and podcasts for it. So that's all super cool, and just shows that they update it regularly and they have a lot of good information on it. So to dive back in, let's now click on the button right below the podcast button, and it's an expansion button. So we'll click it, and here we can now see that a lot of info about the element has popped up. This is where you can look at each of the elements individually. So you can scroll down, you can look at the uses and properties. There's those pictures that we saw earlier. You can also look at the history, the atomic data. I'll scroll down through that. There's a lot of information here. Supply risk, the relative distribution of where it's found in the earth, and just some advanced pressure and temperature data. So this is a lot of information, which is awesome. I love how thorough that the Royal Society has made this. The only thing is it can be a little bit overwhelming if you are trying to use this with students perhaps, or people who don't have very much chemistry experience. So they've actually figured out a way to solve this. If you hit the home button in the upper right, you can go down to the settings button, and out will pop this little sidebar. One of the first things you can see that you can do is change the temperature units. So you can go between degrees Celsius, degrees Fahrenheit, and Kelvin. I think the Fahrenheit is very useful for younger kids or people who don't have very much experience using Celsius yet. So especially if you're American and you are looking for a way to better relate to it, this can make this app much more useful. I will switch it back to Celsius right now. One of the other really cool things that, as you can see here, is that you can choose what data you would like to see when. So there are three main choices: introductory, intermediate, and advanced. I had it on advanced earlier, which is why there was so much information. I'll switch it to introductory right now, and we can go back. I'll show you first really quick though. Even on introductory, you can customize the individual pieces of data that you'd like to see. So even if you're on introductory, you might still want to see all the things in the fact box, so you can turn that on full. So that's cool because you can very much personalize what you see when you see this app. So it's set on introductory. Let's go back to lithium. And as you can see now, there's a lot less information that's given here. The fact box is much smaller. The uses is about the same, and the history. But then you just have supply risk, and it has the top 3 producers and reserve holders. So as you can see, they've cut out a lot of information, and really they've just given all the important information that you might need as a beginning chemist. There's melting point, boiling point, and density, and it's like that for all the elements on introductory. So I just really love that they make it so much simpler and available for a lot of people to use this way. One of the other things you can see in the top left, you can change the font size. So I just decreased it to its smaller setting. There are 2 settings, large and small. So perhaps back on advanced when there was a lot more information, this makes it all fit better on the screen. So it's really cool. The last thing on this screen, you will notice around the edges other elements. So if you take 2 fingers and swipe with 2 fingers, you can actually swipe between the different elements on the periodic table. You'll see in the upper right there is a periodic table map showing where you are on the periodic table. So you see that little white box moving around. I'm still swiping with 2 fingers, and it's just really smooth and convenient. So if you want to spend a lot of time looking at elements that are close together or in the same group or period, this makes it very useful. So let's go back out to the main periodic table now. I'll hit the home button, and we can start looking at the corners of this, which are different ways to group and organize the elements. So up in the top right corner, you can see a lot of different selections for groups, periods, or blocks. When you're in these, you can click on a group, for instance, that you'd like to see. The group is highlighted, some information pops up about it, and it makes it really easy to just look at specific things in the periodic table, specific groups. You can also do the same thing with periods. Just tap on the number period that you'd like to look at. It gives you some information and it highlights everything. You can do specifically the F block elements if you would like to. And then over here you can do the actual blocks. So here's the S block, the P block, the D block, and the F block. Once again, I'm just doing that by tapping the actual blocks or the actual letters up here in the corner. It gives a little bit more information up at the top about these, just since they have very distinct properties. There's also metals that you can click on under classification or non-metals. I really like this because they have the metalloids outlined in white here in the middle.
which just makes it easy to see them. There's nothing specific about metalloids that you can look at in this table, but that's all right. It all still just looks really good. So I'm going to go back down to the bottom right and hit clear all to get back to the main periodic table, and we'll head back to lithium.